Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, we are going back to a ton of Metal Gear Solid games because Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 is here. From Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 to Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, there's a lot of Metal Gear going around. And this launch, while it seemed like an easy slam dunk for Konami as they scratch and crawl their way back into the gaming space, into the console space in particular, it's been a really controversial launch, to say the least. Now, I've had MGS Master Collection marked on my calendar since the moment it was announced because we've talked about game collections here on Retro Rebound in the past. Final Fantasy Collection 1 through 6, all preserved on one cart. We love that stuff. It gives us a chance to reflect and see how the game has been modernized for new audiences and retained for the current ones, for the OGs who were there from the very start. Same for Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, which it does come on one disc. However, you get 2 volumes that are installed into your PlayStation or PC or your Nintendo Switch. So preservation, check. Modernization, check. Like, they check all the boxes. Fantastic collections here. So I'm sizing MGS Master Collection up to those collections there. Did MGS Master Collection really end up being that bad? Well, I tried it out on PC, and I'm here to deliver my thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are new here and you're into day one reviews, nostalgic, retrospective content, I know I'm saying a day one review, but consider subscribing nonetheless. Let's talk about the problems first, because there's been, again, a lot of controversy around this game, and I think it's actually due to a complete lack of effort here. Don't get it too twisted, at least in my experience, and I'm playing it on Steam where it's the worst. These games function fine enough. It's just missed opportunity after missed opportunity after missed opportunity. What I'll say right off the bat is one way to really disenfranchise me from what you're doing with your collection is when I download the game, buy the game, and instead of it being in one unified launcher, the Volume 1 of the Master Collection, it instead fills my library with a ton of SKUs, which this game does, from the bonus content all the way to just the Metal Gear games. They're all separate, and it's because you can buy them a la carte, which I get. I don't know why there can't be a single SKU to have them all unified, especially because with the complicated Metal Gear Solid timeline, it would actually have been really cool to open a launcher and select a game via a timeline for MGS. I think a lot of new fans coming in will be like, wait, what do you mean that MGS 3, which is the one behind me here, why is that the earliest part of the timeline? But that's 3. That doesn't make sense. Like, what do I start with? And just to have that all there in one collection is great for newcomers, because naturally Konami's going to do MGS Volume 2. And you could have these 2 compilations that can walk everyone through the history of one of gaming's most storied franchises, most celebrated franchises. Missed opportunity there just by the way the collection is handled as a whole. Not only that, but I could already tell there was trouble on the horizon when I got my copy, because when I started to install things, the file sizes are incredibly bloated, which means that there's a lot of optimization that's been left on the table here. The fact that MGS2, I say this as someone who loves MGS2, that is my favorite of the entire bunch. MGS2 should not have a bigger file size, this early PS2 game, than MGS3. MGS2 is pushing 13 gigs, and MGS3 is around 9. And I know it's a small difference, but MGS2, by nature of the game it is, the scale of it, what assets are packed into it, should not be a bigger game. And that's even more stunning because behind me, you may have noticed, we have the Vita version of the MGS HD collection here, which not only has MGS 2 and 3, but here on the back, you can't see it, but it says MGS2 VR missions, MG and MG2, and it's all right here on this cartridge on the PlayStation Vita. So you can't tell me that they couldn't have figured it out. They absolutely could have, and it's bad that your Master Collection is worse than the HD collection. And what's hilarious is when you load the game up, you're going to see the name Blue Point. Yes, it's literally the HD collection again. You may be wondering why they're doing all of this. Well, what happened was the MGS HD collection got delisted. This was due to licenses that they had for the historical videos that you see throughout the game's story, which we cannot show because naturally I don't want to get demonetized or anything like that or have any type of copyright striking. But point being is these historical videos had a license attached to them. It expired. They had to take these games down. And right there, I could just smell what Konami was up to. They're going to resell us these games. And if it was just a modernized repackaging, I honestly can give them a free pass because I'm all about game preservation. The problem is, as it's been shown online, for those of you who are looking at this video and going, all right, Steam version, bogus, yeah, whatever, and we'll talk about performance and all that stuff in a moment. But look, you can't even go and buy the physical copy and consider these games preserved. This is still the true preservation right here. When you buy it on Switch, for example, a download's required. And if I may speak freely here, the games that you probably want the most preserved, like Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, are the main ones to download. Anything that's on the cart is like the old NES, for example, Metal Gear games, like really old stuff. And I mean that by no disrespect. It's good those are preserved. But the fact that we can't even go and buy a physical copy like you would for Final Fantasy Collection and have those games totally preserved is mind-boggling to me. Like, that was objective one with this. But to me, what it communicates as a fan when I see two collections here that were celebrated properly and preserved properly versus one that wasn't, it does scream cash grab. It does. But I think for some people that may not matter at the end of the day. Like, I love Metal Gear. Can I buy at least one of these games? Because that is one of the benefits of how they handled the collection. And I think Capcom did it well with their Legacy collection for Battle Network, where it's Volume 1, Volume 2. They did it with the X collection. Do I wish it was a more unified entire package? Yes, but it allows people to split things up like, oh, I only like X4 through 8. I want those, so I'm just going to spend my money on that. I can respect the economy of it all while still managing the preservation front. So you may be looking at this like, does the game work? Is it playable? I'm a big MGS2 fan. I'm a big MGS3 fan. Like, can I just go and get these games? And it seems like it depends. When I played it on Steam, these games were relatively safe. There was weird quirks and kinks in all of them. For example, in one of the many SKUs I opened, which was the bonus content, you would have visual novels that were offered to you. So I was like, oh, I like MGS2. Let me check out the digital visual novel for that game and see what it's like, right? And so I click on it and they're like, to get this, you got to download it from the Steam store. And I'm like, I downloaded the game here from the Steam store. What are you talking about? And it loops me back to the Steam homepage, which then I go and search it up and it loops me back into the bonus content. So I'm like, it's here, but it's not. There are weird things like that. The key binding is atrocious. You wouldn't catch me playing these old games on a keyboard and mouse anyway. But this is really reminiscent of when Activision ported Marvel Ultimate Alliance to PlayStation 4, PC, Xbox One. And it seemed like the biggest slam dunk. I remember I was so excited for that. But my God, did they bork that PC port. And it reminds me a little bit of that here, where the controls, the key binding, not the best here. And speaking of controls, I just think that's where like a missed opportunity is. I know some people really like the detailed mechanics of Metal Gear Solid, and I totally hear you on that. It's that flavor, that lore, that thoughtfulness is what defines this series. Like, why can I hear you over the comms? Oh, it's because of the vibrations in your ear. Like, only you can hear it. No one else can hear it. So you're safe to talk and listen, but no one else can hear it. And like the way the lore is crafted to protect the narrative, it's some deep thinking stuff. And of course, being someone who loves MGS2, we know by the end of the game how profound the writing in MGS can truly be. And I'm not even like a Kojima stan when I say this, but that is some of the most clairvoyant writing in this game. What I will say is one of the cool new additions to these games, if you're looking at them individually, they each include a master book and a screenplay book. The screenplay book is individual to the game itself. So what happens is when you open it up, you get to see the actual script for the game, which as a game writer, I actually find this awesome. I love to see how other people wrote their stories, how they did scene direction between that and dialogue. How did they explain what was happening on paper before it became visualized? That stuff goes a long way with someone like me, but I think for 95% of you, you're probably going to open it up, tab through a couple of pages, cool, and move on, right? That's probably what's going to happen. The master book is a little more interesting for everyone. It has a history of the series there, explaining like who's Big Boss, who's Solid Snake, who are you seeing in each of these games, what are the pillars of design in Metal Gear Solid, and that is the same across all the games, so you can check that out for yourself. but there's not much in the terms of new secrets and additions. And I was talking about controls, where this felt like one of those places that you could have just updated things a bit. I know MGS3 Remake is on the way, so maybe Konami's a little bit lax on, hey, let's pump the brakes here. Let's not do anything too crazy, like make the original game so easy to get that people don't demand our remake we're putting a lot of money into, especially after that first in-engine look, looking really nice there. So I don't like it, but I get it. But I feel like when you talk about aiming in, holding R1, pressing square to shoot, aiming with the left analog stick, not the right, just little tweaks there would have gone a million miles with players just to bring new fans in. Those little things aren't done. When you fire up MGS1, it looks pretty awful. I'm not talking from a PS1 standpoint. It visually could have been polished up better. And it sucks because as someone who doesn't play a lot of Metal Gear, my appreciation for the cutscene direction, the voice acting, and the attention to detail, like down to the first game, I can see why this was a massive deal for PlayStation at the time. The fact that I was crawling around in the snow and someone saw my footsteps, verbally mentioned it, and started tracking my ass down was one of the coolest moments I've seen in an older game. So MGS, as you already know, deserves a lot of respect. The writing in 2, how bold it is, how fierce it is. The fact that they decided, hey, we got this dude Solid Snake and we're going to have you play as Raiden now. No game really does that. And of course, MGS3, the one behind me, speaks for itself. MGS3 is one of the most celebrated video games ever released. Iconic boss fights, iconic final fight for sure. The amount of character development done here, the cutscenes are fantastic, and by God, does this game really take its time. Something I mentioned in our retrospective of MGS3 when the remake was announced. So yeah, there's a lot to love about these games, and when they're fixed, you should try at least one of them out. Me, I'm an MGS2 guy. I love the way it introduces the mechanics and the story to you without sacrificing pacing or player introduction. MGS2 just smacks you on the butt and says, go on, get out there and figure it out yourself. Each game has an online manual. When I was trying to open it up in game, it just wasn't working. So I couldn't see what exactly the controls were. So I had to Google them, that's just awful, right? So even with the controls, these games are based around like vision cones, stealth, sound, right? So they kind of leave you and hang you out to dry. I feel like MGS2 is a good introduction to how MGS3 will play, but also really the way they show you like hanging off a ledge and aiming and knocking on a wall. These little things that you're going to use throughout the game, they don't sacrifice pace or narrative, in my opinion. There are long cutscenes, long stretches of dialogue, especially when you first meet Snake. Oh my God, it's like cutscene after cutscene after cutscene. But I think the storytelling in this game is brilliant, and you're going to get even more of that in MGS3. But that's what I'm thinking is, oh, these are the 2 main games I would recommend. The rest of the collection's kind of lackluster. It doesn't get the polishing up it needs. They don't have this unified collection. Go buy this. It's probably cheaper. Go buy this on Vita if you have it. Go buy it on PS3. Go buy it on 360. Go get the actual preserved version and speak with your wallet. It's not this heinous, unacceptable pile of junk, although I have seen people online have various different experiences where, as someone who played it on Steam, I have a 3080. I don't know if I'm just brute forcing my way through problems, but I have seen people showing frame rate dips where these are also better versions, which is so weird to me. So yeah, I just feel like they really missed a great opportunity here, and you can't take it back. And so yeah, it does worry me a bit. Like, what is the quality of the MGS3 remake going to be? What is the quality of Volume 2 going to be? I just can't help but look at those things and worry a touch here. I want Konami to come back. I want them to thrive. It makes me worry a touch about Suikoden. Like, you're bringing those back. Finally! How much time are you putting in? I mean, Suikoden, I can't imagine you're just trying to cash grab on. It's Suikoden. Like, that's a hardcore gamer franchise. I could be wrong, but I look at MGS and I think, as someone who doesn't adore it but has games in the franchise I do love, I feel like it was a missed opportunity to celebrate things here. So overall, MGS Master Collection, buy what you like a la carte, but wait for a sale, wait for Konami to fix everything, and then maybe you can dive in. But if you're asking me from a preservation standpoint, what should I buy? What should I add to my collection? I know it's not exciting, but go back and get the original HD collection, you'll be much happier with your purchase. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on the MGS Master Collection Volume 1 down below, and I will catch you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.